And we're up to part 5 in this cast assessment series of the 13 teams that will be competing on Amazing Race 35. Note the quotations for the season. As always, we're starting with the last place team, who I think will shit the bed in 13th place, and going all the way up through till the team who I think will cross the finish line first. We're up to the team that I think will finish in 9th place this season, who will follow in Stefan and Antoine's steps of being Team Neuf this year. And I think it's going. No, I know because I've looked at all the spoilers. I have to mention that every video because I presume whoever just wants to watch the prediction for their favorite team and blast me for whatever I say, I assume they're not going to pay attention to the other 12 videos. So I'm essentially making the same joke 13 times in this cast assessment. I think Team Neuf for this year will be Elizabeth and Iliana Rivera. They are from, I don't know why my voice went up that high. They are from Tampa, Florida, Tampa Bay, Florida. What's the difference between Tampa and Tampa Bay? Is it like with the baseball team where it used to be the Devil Rays and now it's just the Rays? What the hell's up with that? Let's see. Elizabeth is a retired lieutenant, and Iliana is a therapist, event planner, gymnast, juggler, Rachel Riley's personal assistant, Microsoft CEO. Let's see, what are her other jobs? Archaeologist and pharmacist. So she has a lot of jobs. That's why she's competing in this season. Let's see. Yeah, I guess she's just really trying to pay off all of those student loans. I hear there are other ways to pay off student loans. Just ask the makers of the Tongue in Chi DVD. But Iliana has definitely taken a more noble route. So we have a mother-daughter team, and we all know this. Mother-daughter team, and you're an all-female team. The only thing that's missing is that you're both not in your 40s and stay-at-home moms. So that's why, I mean, it really makes me look misogynistic and sexist for saying this. But yes, I do have 3 of the bottom 5 teams. I do have the all-female teams in there. Mother-daughter teams just don't do well on the Amazing Race. Of course, the best team overall was Nancy and Emily, who made it to 5th place on the very first season of Amazing Race. And that's because they had stiff competition like Matt and Anna, Dave and Margareta, who were both 90 years old, and a couple other teams. Lenny and Karen, you know how well Lenny and Karen got along and how functional they were during the season. And since then, I mean, season 2, we had Deidre and Hillary, who were out in about 0.5 seconds and didn't stand a chance. They couldn't even beat the Gutsy Grannies. The mother-daughter team couldn't even beat the Gutsy Grannies. And yeah, after that, we just haven't gone to the well too often with mother-daughter teams. Shelly and Nisi, of course, from season 25 were absolutely fantastic. But again, they couldn't make a deep run in the season, mainly because of them not getting along when things did not go their way. And even in Casilda and Casilda from the Latino America season, they're probably the best example of a mother-daughter team. And there was an eating challenge, and Casilda Jr. just said, nope, no Quiero, and she quit that task. It's hilarious to watch. I mean, heartbreaking for them on a personal level, but hilarious to watch as a viewer, especially because all of it was in Spanish. And let's see. And of course, that's the other thing, too, that's working against Elizabeth and Iliana, is that they are both Hispanic, naturally. And Latina teams just do not do well. Think of Mariana and Julia from season 12, did very, very poorly. Their highlight was that one of them did the pole vote, and their pole vault, not they don't vote for polls, the pole vault. And they had that ditch vault roadblock that was it Julia who did that roadblock? And she did it on the first attempt very easily. That was their highlight from the three episodes that they were in. Lula and Lala made it to 5th place, but that's because the majority of the cast had to quit during the COVID season, and their competition was Michael and Mo and Arun and Natalia. And Rune and Natalia made it further than them. So that shows you maybe that's that's the peak is with Lulu and Lala. Of course, there's been 34 seasons now, so I'm pretty sure I'm forgetting a couple examples. And we're talking about where both teammates are Latin American. And let's take a look at this cast photo there for Elizabeth and Iliana. Let's see if I can make any superficial remarks. What the hell? They're not. Who? Michael Harmstone and I have made fun of CBS a lot over the years for typos and mistakes they've made in the bios. But this is just blatant. They're clearly not mother-daughter. They are sisters. We have another team of sisters on this season. So that changes everything I said for the first few minutes. What dumbass from CBS said, "Hey, we've got a mother-daughter team." How dumb are you? They're sisters. Clearly. They said one was 52 and the other was 27. That can't be possible. Look at the Gilmore girls. Look at Lorelai Gilmore and Rory Gilmore. They were 16 years apart, and you could tell the generational difference between them. They were 16 years apart. I mean, you knew they were fairly close in age, but you could tell who was the mama and who was the daughter. Even other than the guy who was in the very first scene of the pilot episode for Gilmore Girls. By the way, my sister is a diehard fan of Gilmore Girls, so when I was growing up, I was subjected to way too much Gilmore Girls. That's why I know too much about that series. You can quiz me on it. I don't know it as well as I do The Mole or Amazing Race or Survivor, or The Simpsons, but I can hold my own in Gilmore Girls trivia, sadly. So yeah, so actually they are a team of sisters. Yeah, maybe Elizabeth and Iliana lied on their application, since there are many pairs of sisters that try to audition for the Amazing Race and not as many mother-daughter duos. Maybe that's what happened, perhaps, so they could boost their chances. And nobody did any fact checking amongst the casting producers, maybe Jesse Tenenbaum or that Joy woman from casting. They said, "Oh, mother-daughter, let's just cast them," and not realize, hey, wait a second, we should check their birth certificate and just verify their age. There's no way in hell that Elizabeth is 52. Yeah, so we're talking about sisters, and sisters, there haven't been many all-female winning teams, but we did have a pair of sisters that did do well in Unfinished Business. That took one of only 3 all-female teams that have taken the crown on the Amazing Race. And we did not have any sisters win Amazing Race Asia. No sisters have won Amazing Race Canada. Canada's only had that one lesbian couple win. So again, we've also had sisters that have done very poorly. If Elizabeth and Iliana run into hay bales, I'm sure they're going to have to unroll 100 more hay bales than any other team. I'm trying to think of the last pair of sisters. I mean, they're essentially twins. We could classify them as a twin team. So Emily and Molly, of course, from last season, made it to 2nd place. And of course, we have another Lula and Mala reference from season 33 there that made it to 5th place. So, sisters have been doing okay as of late. Maybe that's what production is aiming for. They want another sisterly team to win the season. Although, how would they know that? CBS told Bertram Van Munster and Elise Doganieri and Phil Kogan that they're mother-daughter. So maybe they did think that, hey, we have a mother-daughter team that stands a chance. And of course, they're going to stand more of a chance when they're actually sisters. It's false identity. Come on now. And let's see, if CBS couldn't even catch that, you have to think about all of the other things that they can't catch. Everything else if we believe that, just think of all of the other hoaxes in history that we bought into. For instance, the moon landing. What's going to happen now? Suddenly, maybe it turns out that the moon landing actually was real. All this time, we've all assumed it was fake. Or that, let's see, that oh, I mean, what's going to happen now? We're going to be led to believe that Michael Jordan went to a time machine and he was the one who shot JFK. We're all going to believe in that hoax now. Uh, yeah, just really, really bizarre stuff. But overall, when you think of statistics with all female teams or sister teams, the trend is, as of late, they have done well. But prior to that, there weren't too many sister teams that were getting close to crossing the finish line. I mean, just think of the first 10 seasons of the American version. The first all-female team to cross the finish line was Lynn and Carlin. In season 11, we had Cousins and Friends cross the finish line. In season 14, of course, they were the two friends, Jamie and Cara, that crossed the finish line. So it just doesn't happen too often with sisters. And of course, luckily with being twins, it kind of boosts their chances, but not by too much. Not by too much. And of course, the counterbalance is that they are Latin American, so it kind of cancels out there. And let's see. And it's going to be a relief for me if they go home in 9th place, because I cannot tell these two ladies apart. I can't tell Elizabeth and Iliana apart. I mean, I do suffer from infamous partial face blindness, but there's no way I'm going to be able to tell them apart. It's like with Gian's sisters. When I met Gian's sisters for the first time, I couldn't tell their faces apart at all. The only way I could tell them apart was from the back, from their booties. If I compared their booties, then yes, I could tell who was Chris and who was Joanne. But otherwise, I didn't stand a chance in hell of telling them apart by their faces, especially including Gian in there. Luckily, Gian was much shorter than them. Like Gian was 4'11", and the other two were 5'2". But yeah, well, if I go by faces and by the front, there's no way in hell I can tell them apart. But if I go by the back, I stood a realistic chance. So unfortunately, all of Elizabeth and Iliana's press photos are from the front. So maybe there'll be some sort of, I don't know, climbing task up a ladder or or some sort of ascension task where the camera has no choice but to be behind them, and then I can probably tell them apart. It was actually the same thing with one of my ex-girlfriend's sisters there. It was the same thing. I could tell them apart from their backs, but not so much by the front of them. In fact, I probably have a better chance of telling Emily and Molly or Lula and Lala apart than I do with Elizabeth and Iliana. That's how similar they are. Yeah. In terms of actual content and being serious about this this review, out of all the mother-daughter teams that we've had, they definitely do. They definitely do stand the best chance, I would say. Like Nancy and Emily in season 1, they're not going to do too well. Or Shelley Nisi in season 25, you knew they had their vulnerabilities during the season. But Elizabeth and Iliana, as long as they can cooperate and respect each other and be friendly with one another, they do, and still have that competitive edge to really break through these barriers. They do. They might have a chance at this, but unfortunately, I don't think they do, and that's why I have them in 9th place. All right, let's get to our 8th place team. Let's see if I can get this all done before 9:30 p.m. on the East Coast. I've got a couple hours. Let's power through this.